Hello second year and welcome back to the next video lesson of the healthy organs topic. While you're on this slide, make sure you refamiliarise yourself with the icons here because they will be popping up during this video. In your jotter, put today's date in the margin and take blood pressure as your title. When the heart contracts, it pumps blood out into the arteries. The blood in the arteries is therefore under pressure and we call that your blood pressure. Now, blood pressure is at its highest just after the heart has contracted, and it's at its lowest in between contractions when the heart is filling up with blood again. To measure blood pressure, we use a sphygmomanometer. Blood pressure readings consist of two values, systolic pressure and diastolic pressure. Now, systolic pressure is given when the heart muscle contracts, which forces the blood out of the heart and into the arteries, and the diastolic pressure is when the heart relaxes and fills up with blood again. Blood pressure is written as systolic pressure over diastolic pressure. Now, normal blood pressure is considered 120 over 80 millimetres of mercury, and that's how you'll hear blood pressure values related. So 120 over 80, 130 over 70, and so on and so forth. However, blood pressure is affected by many different factors, and what is normal for one person might not be normal for another.
If you lined up all the blood vessels in your body, they'd be 95,000 kilometers long. And every day, they carry the equivalent of over 7,500 liters of blood, though that's actually the same 4 or 5 liters recycled over and over, delivering oxygen and precious nutrients like glucose and amino acids to the body's tissues. All that blood exerts a force on the muscular walls of the blood vessels. That force is called blood pressure, and it rises and falls with the phases of the heartbeat. It's highest during systole, when the heart contracts to force blood through the arteries. This is your systolic blood pressure. When the heart is at rest between beats, blood pressure falls to its lowest value, the diastolic pressure. A typical healthy individual produces a systolic pressure between 90 and 120 millimeters of mercury, and diastolic pressure between 60 and 80. Taken together, A normal reading is a bit less than 120/80. The blood traverses the landscape of the body through the pipes of the circulatory system. In any plumbing system, several things can increase the force on the walls of the pipes: the properties of the fluid, extra fluid, or narrower pipes. So if the blood thickens, a higher pressure is needed to push it, so the heart will pump harder. A high salt diet will lead to a similar result. The salt promotes water retention, and the extra fluid increases the blood volume and blood pressure. And stress, like the fight or flight response, releases hormones like epinephrine and norepinephrine that constrict key vessels, increasing the resistance to flow and raising the pressure upstream. Blood vessels can usually handle these fluctuations easily. Elastic fibers embedded in their walls make them resilient. But if your blood pressure regularly rises above about 140/90, what we call hypertension, and stays there, it can cause serious problems. That's because the extra strain on the arterial wall can produce small tears. When the injured tissue swells up, substances that respond to the inflammation, like white blood cells, collect around the tears. Fat and cholesterol floating in the blood latch on too, eventually building up to form a plaque that stiffens and thickens the inner arterial wall. This condition is called atherosclerosis, and it can have dangerous consequences. If the plaque ruptures, a blood clot forms on top of the tear, clogging the already narrowed pipe. If the clot is big enough, it can completely block the flow of oxygen and nutrients to cells downstream. In vessels that feed the heart, that will cause a heart attack when oxygen-deprived cardiac muscle cells start to die. If the clot cuts off blood flow to the brain, it causes a stroke. Dangerously clogged blood vessels can be widened by a procedure called an angioplasty. There, doctors thread a wire through the vessel to the obstructed site, and then pass a deflated balloon catheter over the wire. When the balloon is inflated, it forces the passageway open again. Sometimes a rigid tube called a stent is placed in the vessel to help hold it open, letting the blood flow freely to replenish the oxygen-starved cells downstream. Staying flexible under pressure is a tough job for arteries. The fluid they pump is composed of substances that can get sticky and clog them. And your typical healthy heart beats about 70 times a minute, and at least 2.5 billion times during an average lifetime. That may sound like an insurmountable amount of pressure, but don't worry, your arteries are well suited for the challenge.
In your jotters, take the subheading high blood pressure. So high blood pressure is around 170/95. This is extremely rare in young people. It tends to be more common in adults over 35 and can be caused by things such as a fatty diet, being overweight, drinking alcohol, not exercising regularly enough, and stress. People with high blood pressure don't feel any differently from those with a blood pressure in the normal range, and it's usually only detected by a blood pressure check at the doctor's. However, if high blood pressure goes undetected for a long time, it can lead to serious health complications like angina, stroke, and heart attack. Take the new subheading low blood pressure. Someone with low blood pressure might have a reading of around 80/65. A sudden drop in blood pressure can lead to fainting, and it may also indicate heart failure. Low blood pressure occurs when the heart is not able to pump blood out hard enough into the arteries. Here is your task for today, second year. So I want you to, either in your jotter or a Word document, answer these 7 questions on blood pressure. Make sure you're answering in full sentences so that it can help you with your revision later on. That is the end of your video lesson for today, second year. So during your timetabled class, what I want you to do is complete all the work in this video. That includes the tasks, either in your jotter or in a Word document, and make sure that you upload that work via the assignments tab to the lesson 6 jotter work tab. If you've forgotten how to do that, there's a video in the file section on Teams. we are finished for today's second year. Make sure you complete all the work that you've been assigned to do during this lesson, and if you need me for anything, just pop a quick message in the Q&A channel and make sure you tag me using the @Key so that I get a notification about it. Have a good day.